2:30 a.m. San Francisco. A man is crawling down a street, not walking, crawling. His hand is pressed against his chest. Blood is spreading through his shirt. He finds an intercom, presses it, waits. Nothing. He moves to the next building, presses again. Still nothing. He dials 911, once, twice, 3 times. Each call weaker than the last. This man is Bob Lee, co-creator of Cash App, one of the most celebrated engineers in Silicon Valley history. He will not survive the night.
Bob Lee. The autopsy released late today reveals the Cash App founder died on the operating table after being stabbed 3 times, twice in the heart.
Shockwaves through Silicon Valley. The man accused of killing Cash App founder Bob Lee will stand trial.
The jury has already decided what happened to him. Nima Momeni was convicted of his murder. He is serving time right now, and as of April 2026, he is asking for a new trial.
Whatever happened in the past is in the past. We are fresh eyes, fresh perspectives. We're in the infancy portion of doing our due diligence.
Welcome to Darkest Crimes. This case is not over, and we are going all the way through it. The engineer who coded Cash App in a weekend, a platform that now processes billions, used by millions every day. His colleagues describe someone who could walk into any room and still be the most technically brilliant person in it. His friends describe someone who showed up, who answered calls, who hadn't disappeared into success. That's the version that made the headlines when he died. But there was another version. In the period before his death, Bob Lee had become deeply embedded in San Francisco's after-hours world. Late nights, private parties, social circles where tech wealth and other worlds overlapped in ways Silicon Valley preferred not to discuss publicly. He was living in both versions simultaneously. The daytime engineer, the after-midnight participant in a world that the industry he built liked to pretend didn't exist. And it was that second world that put him in a white BMW at 2:30 in the morning with Nima Momeni. The public one, the one on the tech blogs and the Forbes lists, the disruption, the innovation, the world-changing apps, and the private one that exists after midnight in apartments and private events where the same engineers and founders who built the public version moved through a much less curated world. Bob Lee was part of that second world. So was Nima Momeni, and so was Nima's sister, Kazar. These were not strangers. They were not random. They moved in the same rooms, attended the same events, shared the same social atmosphere. And Nima Momeni was watching. He was watching who his sister spent time with. He was watching what those interactions looked like. Watching Bob Lee. Not as a threat, not yet. There's something to manage. And that management, quiet, controlled, accumulated, is what investigators later described as the emotional infrastructure of everything that happened on April 4th, 2023.
We can confirm that Mr. Lee and Mr. Momeni knew each other. However, we will not be able to provide further details at this time regarding the evidence that confirms that information.
The killing didn't begin that night. It began in the rooms they both knew long before anyone knew what was coming. Look up Nima Momeni before all of this, and you find exactly what you'd expect from someone in Silicon Valley's orbit. Professional, educated, well-connected, the kind of person who shows up at the same events, gets introduced at the same parties, is in the same group chats. No criminal record, no public warning signs, no reason to look twice. And yet, phone records show repeated contact between Bob Lee and Nima in the period before the killing. Messages, calls, shared environments, and beneath the surface of those interactions, something that forensic analysts later described as controlled tension. The kind that doesn't explode, the kind that compresses. the kind that finds one specific moment to release everything it has been holding. Deleted messages were partially recovered, not enough for explicit threats. Enough to see the tone. Short replies. Unresolved discomfort, the specific texture of communication between two people who both know there is something unspoken between them. One of them brought a knife to that conversation. The other one bled out on a street pressing intercoms and calling 911 while the first one drove away. The investigation had the BMW, it had the phone data, it had the partial message recovery. What it didn't have was DNA. Surveillance teams were watching Nima Momeni, following his routine, his office building, his schedule, his movements. He looked ordinary. He behaved ordinarily. He walked into his office building every morning like nothing had happened. And then, one afternoon, he tossed something in a garbage can outside his office. A pizza crust. Forensic teams retrieved it, processed it, extracted the DNA, and matched it. A pizza crust in a garbage can outside his office, thrown away on a Tuesday. That was the moment Nima Momeni's plan to remain untouchable ended. A kitchen knife, recovered at the scene. DNA extracted, processed, matched. Nima Momeni. Blood pattern analysis, close range. Sustained contact, multiple strikes. Not one blow in panic, not an accident. Repeated, deliberate. Force applied multiple times. Cell tower data, vehicle GPS, movement logs, all aligned. Same timeline. Same route. Same location. The prosecution built a case that the jury found sufficient for murder. Not manslaughter, not heat of passion. Murder. Nima Momeni was convicted. He was sentenced. He is currently incarcerated. And in April 2026, his lawyers filed for a new trial. April 23, 2026. More than a year after his conviction, Nima Momeni's attorneys filed for a new trial. The motion doesn't argue he didn't do it. It argues something more specific, that the jury got the level of the crime wrong. The defense is challenging the premeditation finding. Their argument, this was escalation, an emotional confrontation that became violent. Not a planned killing, not deliberate intent. A moment that got out of control. The prosecution's counter is built on the same forensics, the knife, the DNA, the pattern of wounds. The fact that Bob Lee was stabbed multiple times at close range doesn't suggest a single impulsive blow. It suggests sustained action. The jury agreed with the prosecution. The retrial motion asks a judge to disagree with the jury. That is a high bar. Retrial motions succeed rarely, but they are not ceremonial. They require a legal argument, and they keep a case alive in ways a verdict does not. As of April 2026, the motion is pending. No ruling has been issued. This case, more than 3 years after Bob Lee bled out on a San Francisco street, is still being decided. Here is the question Nima Momeni's attorneys are asking a judge to reconsider. Was this planned? The prosecution says, look at the knife, look at the number of wounds, look at the digital trail that shows contact, tension, and a meeting that Bob Lee may not have fully understood the nature of. That is premeditation. The defense says, look at the relationship. Two people who knew each other, a confrontation that escalated. Emotions that reached a breaking point. That is escalation, not a plan. The jury heard both arguments. The jury chose murder, and a judge will now decide whether that choice deserves to be made again. Whatever the ruling, Bob Lee is still gone. His children still don't have a father. And the street in Rincon Hill where he collapsed looks exactly the same as it did that night. Nima Momeni was convicted of the murder of Bob Lee. He is serving time. His attorneys are fighting for a new trial. A judge will rule, and whether that ruling comes next month or next year, Darkest Crimes will be here when it does. Subscribe, because this is not a cold case update. This is a live legal fight, and the next chapter could drop at any time. Drop a comment. Tell us, based on everything in this video, premeditated murder or escalation that went too far? Because the jury gave one answer, the defense is arguing another, and we want to know where you land.